mean, all we wanted was, we wanted to know what made us sick. We wanted to know, we wanted medical help. We wanted to get well, and we wanted to keep other people from getting sick. At that point in time, we were not even looking for compensation. I mean, that wasn't even part of our lexicon.
I ran into a little personal experience back, I think, in February or March. I had the ductwork in my home cleaned, which was way long overdue, and I struck up a conversation about my breathing problems with the fellow that did the estimate. And he said, you know, we did a job out at Y12 maybe 3 years ago or so, and his crew was having lunch with some of the Y12 workers, and just in small talk, one of the Y12 workers asked what job they were doing. He said, well, we're cleaning ductwork in this building. First thing the guy said was, man, you guys better be taking the precautions and dressed out and everything, because they've detected beryllium in this building, and you know it's going to end up in the ductwork. They had never even heard the word.
So I was down at the portal one day. There's a big dozer sitting up there. And I looked up on the tracks on that dozer, and there's a big old piece of centrifuge sitting on it. And I said, whoa here, buddy. I said, where you going? He said, oh, I'm going out to the powerhouse. I said, you do that very often? He said, yeah. I said, where'd you get that centrifuge part on that track? He said, oh, says we use that dozer to cover that stuff up on the hill above 1200. Says we just pushed it there and graded it up, you know, and pack it down. I said, well, I said, today you're not going to be able to take that dozer outside the plant. So I made him take it back, and they'd been transferred. They'd been covering that stuff up, and when they do, it would get in the tracks of the dozer, and they'd carry it down to the powerhouse. In the meantime, dropping parts all between the Portal 4 and the powerhouse.
We couldn't even get the state environmental organizations involved, like Sierra Club and the Tennessee Environmental Council, which was the big group that had a lot of other environmental groups under it. And what we heard from the Tennessee Environmental Council was that, oh, we don't do anything with Oak Ridge because it's just a black hole. If we get involved in anything there, it'll just suck all of our resources and nothing will ever change.
We had probably 50 pages of documentation of not just that one building, but we ended up, I believe it was from the OCAW records, that seems like it was a 5 or 6 page document that had maybe from 1 to 5 lines of buildings and a description that had at one time or another either contained beryllium storage or beryllium operations. So the company didn't really have, or DOE rather, excuse me, didn't have any leg to stand on. That just kind of went along with what we used to call DOE. It stood for denial of everything. That was another case of the denying, you know, here it is in black and white. Oh, we don't see anything. Mm-hmm. But, you know, we had it right there, most of it from public records.
At this point, people were still very, very sick. People were starting to go out on disability from their jobs. People were starting to go part-time because they weren't able to continue their jobs. And we started writing letters. And I was working on site at K25 at the time. And when I found out that my levels were high, I decided I needed to leave the site and go back to my home division, which was off-site, and actually just right down the road here in Oliver Springs. I had actually been on loan to a different division at K25. And so I left, came back to my home division, but I was still doing the same work, my pollution prevention work. So, but I didn't get better. I was still sick, even though I came back to my off-site office. And but my job still took me across the Department of Energy complex. I went to the Nevada test site, I went to the Kansas City plant, I went to Lawrence Livermore lab, I went all around the DOE complex. I also went and visited all the other sites. I went to Y12, I went to Oak Ridge National Lab, and what I would do on all these visits was attend meetings, but also go and visit different pollution prevention projects. So sometimes I would actually be in hazardous sites. But I didn't get well. In fact, I got worse and worse and worse.
Right at the point where I was making money that I could put back for my retirement, I had my kids all pretty much out of school, other than maybe a little bit of college. At the point where you were trying to save some money and put it up, your employment was taken away from you, jerked out and under you. And if you're a man like me, or anybody that's worked all your life, maybe two jobs or something like that, then all of a sudden doctors say, oh, you ain't gonna never be able to work again as long as you live. That is a devastation. But I cannot emphasize what it felt like, just been it jerking away from you and saying, you know, here we're gonna give you 60% of your regular salary for so long, and then that's, you know, then you'll be on disability. And I would like to see Congress get their stuff together and get these programs going, and get some of these people that like me get at the retirement age or close to the retirement, and then that gets so sick, then it takes everything they've got to pay off all their bills and everything. You know, a lot of people borrowed money on their houses and everything. Even if they got it paid, they borrowed money on it to pay their co-payments and other things that it's just been a devastating effect on me. And I let the congressmen and the senators know right quick how I felt about it.
I went up to visit my congressperson, Mr. Duncan. So I made an appointment and I sat down with him, and he was so rude to me. And at that point, I had laboratory evidence of the cyanide and the nickel and the mercury. So I was telling him about these 80 people that had showed up with high urine thiocyanate, and some people already had the metals showing up in them. And so I was telling him what our goals were and the laboratory evidence that was showing up in these people. And this is what he said to me. Well, what if I had a doctor that examined you and found that it was all in your head? I looked at him and I said, well, we have laboratory evidence that shows that there are real toxins in people's bodies. And he said, well, what if I had 3 doctors that examined all of you and found out that it was all in your head? And I just looked at him and I said, but we have real evidence that these things are real. Congress passes the law. The agency that's supposed to implement that law takes the law and says, okay, we're going to write these rules that says how to set up the program, and then they set up their program. And they almost never get it right. I mean, that's just the way life is, I guess, you know. And then Congress has to come back and go, you didn't get it right. We have to pass more amendments, and each amendment is more prescriptive and more detailed. This is what we really meant. The problem with this particular law is that these are people's lives and health. I mean, this is life and death in some cases, and quality of life for people. And that's why it's just so important. And I just don't know how we can get this across any more emphatically with our members of Congress. It's been 8 years since the law was passed, for heaven's sakes. I mean, how long do we have to wait to get it right?